This is a multi-generational woodpecker tree that's been passed down through the family. And this tree right here kind of looks like an umbrella. And this weird pile of rocks may or may not have been a creepy old house back in the past. Because not too long ago, me and my cousin went way out in the back of our woods to see what kind of cool stuff we could find. And we did find some pretty cool stuff. So let's fly right in. So when we started going out into the woods, we came across this really weird giant pile of rocks. Originally we thought it might be some sort of like weird burial place or something like that, and we moved on. And after a little while, we came to this really big rocky ridge. And when we came over it, we found this huge log section from probably about 20 years ago. And it was really cool because even on these logged sections from a while ago, the trees are still starting to grow back. Because there's like tons of little small pines growing up everywhere. And it was just like this really cool kind of open marshland. And down at the bottom, where it was a little bit wetter, there was like these giant granite rocks with like trees growing with roots over them, and like these really cool mossy patches here and there. And there was even one spot where there was this grouping of like small pine trees that kind of made like a cave on the inside that you could kind of go into. And everything was kind of wet, and me and my cousin slipped quite a few times, but we don't have to throw those clips in. So anyway, we started working our way back up, and we came across like this spot in the woods where the trees had already grown back, but it was really open and very clear of underbrush. And the forest floor was completely covered in moss, with rocks everywhere, and we even found this giant fallen down tree that even looked like the entrance to China. So anyway, as we were working our way back, we came across this really cool tree that was literally, I'm not kidding, covered head to toe, if a tree had a head and a toe, with woodpecker holes. And I'm pretty sure that was a plated woodpecker tree because of the size of the holes. And not too far from that tree, we found some like bayberry plants. And back in the old days, they would take the berries off of those plants. They were kind of waxy, and they would melt them down and make candles out of them. And it smelled pretty nice. And when we started heading down that kind of like rocky embankment where we had went up, we found this tree that kind of looked like an umbrella. It was really, really cool because it went straight up, but at the top where there were some branches, it was like the top had been sawed off, and you could kind of like sit on top of it and kind of like look around, and I'll throw up the video. It was extremely cool. And really close to that, there was the biggest spruce tree I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't even get my hands around it. It was probably like 4 feet in diameter, but you can see here how my cousin, who's way taller than me, looks like a dwarf compared to this tree. It was absolutely crazy. And on our way back, we found some pine trees that had nibble marks on it from Mr. Needlebum, the porcupine. And if you've seen my porcupine videos, which you should definitely watch, they're really funny, we've had a porcupine been coming into our yard, eating apples off our porch that we had picked at the orchard, climbing on our roof, trying to get into our house, and we appropriately named him Mr. Needlebum for very obvious reasons. And so yeah, we found teeth marks from where he had been chewing on pine trees, which is pretty cool. And as we were heading back to the house, we came across a apple tree, which isn't necessarily uncommon for where I live, but usually those apple trees are around spots where there were houses, but this is way out in the middle of the woods. And we were walking back, and we came back to that big pile of rocks that we thought could have been like this weird, I don't know, burial mound or something. And something that I remembered from when we first saw it is there was a mullein plant growing right next to the big pile of rocks. Now, mullein plants, it's more of a plant that grows out in the open, and especially around human dwellings. And as we were walking back, we came upon this giant granite stone that had very obviously been quarried, as you'll see in this video. So then we started putting 2 and 2 together, And we came to the conclusion that that big pile of rocks was a foundation to a house long ago, which is really, really cool that on our property we have a foundation to an old house. Because based on there being an apple tree and the mullein plants, and that there's definitely quarried granite around it, and the rocks were obviously put there by humans, that's how we reached the conclusion that this could have been the foundation to a really old house. So yeah, we had a lot of fun exploring the woods, the woodpecker tree, umbrella tree, and of course the really cool foundation was absolutely amazing. And yeah, Frightful, do you have anything to say? Okay, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.